We're in Alor, which is on the mainland, and it's probably about an hour and a half north of Buttersworth. Buttersworth is across from Georgetown. So we ended up taking a bus from Georgetown to Alor, and we're going to be here for a couple days. And then we're going to take a train down to Ipoh. So we're hoping to see some historic buildings and such. So this is one of them. I'll have to get the name off of it. But anyways, for now it's interesting, and the clock actually tells proper time. And again, this is a mosque. There's a name to it, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. I'll try and look it up. It's quite the building. Anyways, we got into here. What are we here? Monday evening. We just had dinner, so we're just starting to do a little walk. The name of the mosque is Masjid. Is that here, I guess? Looks like it might have been constructed in 1912. But as you can see, it's quite faded. Definitely a large building. And like I was just telling Cindy, where could you go anywhere to a tourist site and literally be the only ones on the grounds? There's not a soul. Well, I guess there's a couple bikes over there, but you get my point. It's kind of cool that way. This is not open to the public, but I believe it's where they hide the musical instruments for royalty weddings. We'll look up, there's a sign up ahead, we'll look it up. And a high court building, built in 1922. We're gonna get partially down anyways. Well, they're chicken wings, they look like something else almost. Ooh, she's a busy place now. Popping now.
Please have a look. Where are you from?
Canada.
Canada. Welcome to Malaysia.
Thank you.
Yeah. Would you want to try our pastry? This is our pastry, and also this is our breads, all freshly baked from oven. Yes.
I don't know if we have any room for anything right now.
Sorry?
But I'm not too sure we have any room for anything right now.
Okay. Best-selling products.
Okay.
We call it a polo bun.
What is it made of?
Polo bun means like polo in Cantonese or Chinese means that pineapple, because it looks like, you know. But inside, the ingredient inside is actually the butter. It's a salted butter, and it's very crunchy. It's very crunchy. Would you want to have a try?
Take one home?
Up to you. Sorry.
Thank you.
We need to come here a little later in the day. Now let's have a look around, I guess. Oh, yeah, we got over here. Look. We're in Kuala Kedah, which is on the coast. It has a fort, I believe, built in around the 1700s, I think, by the Portuguese. Fort Kuala Kedah is the oldest Malay fort in northern Malaysia and dates from the 17th century. It was destroyed and rebuilt in the 19th century and was occupied by Japanese troops during the Japanese occupation of Malaysia in the Second World War. The Sultan, who ruled from 1602 to 1920, built the original fort from clay, timber, bamboo, and with the assistance of his allies, the Portuguese, who had established a presence in the area. The Sultan ruled from this base at Fort Sipatu, which was destroyed by the Aceh Armada in 1619, an event which resulted in the Portuguese being ousted from the area, and again in 1770 by the Bugis Armada. In 1780 to 82, the 20th Sultan of Kedah, who ruled from 1778 to 1779, rebuilt and strengthened the fort. An architect who was also the religious leader directed the rebuild of the fort with labor imported from India and gave it its present look. Cannons purchased from the British and the Dutch were placed around the fort. A palace was also built inside it. The fort was attacked and destroyed in November 1821 by the powerful Siamese Armada. It is located near the mouth of the Kedah River, about 12 kilometers from the town of Alor. It was designated as a historical monument and historic site under the Antiquities Act, 1976. When you look at the thickness of the wall, it's probably, I don't know, I'd say probably a good 2.5 feet wide. I mean, the manpower or labor to build it. I just find it amazing that kind of history and how long ago and where we are now and what it'd been like to be back there. And I said I'd want to live back there because I'm sure things would have been extremely harsh. The lifespan wouldn't have been so great either. But it's the history is kind of is cool. And we got a couple of baby cannons here. I mean, it's kind of neat to think that they're like, you know, 300-400 years old. I mean, nothing that we have in Canada basically relates to anything like that. Or I haven't seen much of it anyways, if it does. And Quebec has some, but, and Eastern Canada I haven't been to yet, so I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. A Dutch-made cannon, 1610. The Dutch cannon is made from iron. The top of its body is decorated with a Dutch emblem, VLC. A ring of quails together with a floral dolphin motifs. Also seen is the date 1610, estimated to be more than 350 years old. That's what I'm saying. It's here you can see the outlines of buildings that used to be here. It's pretty moist, the ground. It's pretty saturated. Because it had a heavy rain, or it's just where it's located. And if you look over here, you do have water. I'd assume the tide's out somewhat because, well, it just looked like the tide's out. I mean, all this fishing is just amazing. You know, there must be an abundance of sea or fish out there, or there won't be much longer, one of the two. Since there, lighthouse. And then in the middle there's a museum. A gentleman told us a little bit earlier that the museum was a school after the Japanese left the area after occupation. And then it was turned back into a museum. Or into a museum, I should say. The lighthouse was constructed in 1891. The lighthouse, which was then known as Rumah Pelita, House of Light, made of concrete similar to what we have today, was built in Kota, Kuala, Kedah in 1891. The expenses had been financed by the government of Thailand during the reign of King British era. With the concluding of the Anglo-Siam Treaty, Bangkok Treaty of 1909, Kedah moved from being under the Siamese to the British. W.G. Maxwell was the first British advisor in Kedah. Remained as an administrative and educational center. A number of government office courts and courts for harbor masters and archways were built in this town. For more than half a decade, Kedah was colonized by three different powers from the east and the west, such as Siam, 1820 to 1909, the British, 1909 to 1941, Japanese from 41 to 43, and Siam again, 43 to 45. After Siamese attack on the port of Kuala Kedah on November 12, 1821, during the reign of Sultan, Kuala Kedah importance as Keda's defense administrative center began to decline until the period of the Japanese occupation of Malay State from 41 to 43. The Japanese army went on to use it as their base. I don't know if you read it, but the Japanese armies continued to advance into the smaller towns around Alor Setar as they approached Kota Kuala Kedah. The British, who had been fortified there, fled for their lives. In the end, the Japanese successfully occupied Kuala Kedah without any resistance from the British. The Japanese used this fort as a place for training their soldiers. They also forced the locals to attend school daily to learn Japanese language, which had been made a compulsory subject at the Chinese school in that town. Those Chinese believed to be anti-Japanese were caught, tied, caned, and hung at a specially constructed shelf where they strangled to death near the current jetty terminal. The corpses were left to drown in high tide and carried adrift to the sea. The villagers feared the brutality of the Japanese. No kidding. Incredible. And there's your lighthouse again, and then you got a building beside it, which is, I'm going to say, a cooking building of some sort, because those look like chimneys and maybe an oven, but I'm guessing. And then I never knows, but you got something in the center there. I'm going to assume this is one of the original cannons. And look how rust has eroded it. This cannon is synonymous with myths and legends. In the past, the locals regarded it as being haunted. Some said they had seen something resembling a human figure sitting there, which would at times revert to its original form. Its name points to the uniqueness of the cannon, which is believed to have remained afloat in the water, akin to a rhinoceros taking a dip despite having fallen into the sea as a result of erosion of the seawalls. Ever since that incident, the locals have given the name Mrim Badak Berendem. And I have no idea if I'm saying that right. So we got here around 10 o'clock this morning. Spent the night in Alistar. Found the mall and did some shopping. Seems to be a favorite pastime, unfortunately. Anyways, we a lot of night markets, and I think we got some pictures of them last night. Relaxing evening. We didn't do a whole lot, to be honest. Had breakfast at the hotel, and then came out here. We got out here about 10 o'clock in the morning. Took an Uber out here, and it cost us about $14 ringgits, which is, I don't know, 4 1/4 maybe, to get out here, which is probably about a 15-minute ride. So we've actually asked her to come back and pick us up in 2.5 hours, which would be 12:30. We're going to go out and see the rice paddy museum. Anyways, we're going to talk up here about the British made cannons. These 4 British made cannons found here were among the cannons that were able to be salvaged despite their eroded physical condition. There is a huge difference in the number compared to those found during the reign of Sultan, who was said to have owned dozens of British made cannons, the Malay cannon and the swivel gun, which he placed in front of the city walls. Its primary role was a weapon of defense that protected Kedah from enemy threats. the Katak Puru cannon. The uniqueness of this cannon lies in the way it was made. It is said to be a Malay-made cannon construction from iron and subsequently forged and pinched using the fingers while the iron is still red hot. Aye. The process produced the craggy effect on the body of the cannon resembling the skin of toads. In the old days, this cannon was also used as a weapon of defense to protect the city from enemy attacks. Now that would be painful as hell to forge that using your fingers. The same type of boat the Thai use, with the blades sticking out the back. An arch that leads out to the channel just on the other side. As you can see, the arch is made from granite. The British built this in around 1910, I believe, in that time frame. And we're still in Kuala Kedah. We've finished looking at the fort. Our Uber driver is going to come out and pick us up, but that's not till 12:30, so we got about an hour to kill. So we're slowly walking back and looking around. That's really the long and short of that. As you can see over there, there's fishing boats are anchored, or just came in because we've seen some of them coming in. And if you look just inside, he's pulling a net and he's taking the fish off right there. So you want fresh fish, there it is. Makes you wonder how sustainable it really is, the fisheries. Well, the fisheries, period. I don't know. I know they're not big fish. Huh? You're overdressed or underdressed?
Under color.
Well, there's no doubt.
But the looks after, like I turn around and look back afterwards and whoa.
You want to? I don't see his heads going there. We're not going to buy any fish.
I'm gonna go look.
No, we don't offend anybody. I'm good with it. Lots of different types of fish, that's for sure. And? Did he ask you to let you take the picture?
He did, but I don't even think he understood what I was asking.
Probably not. You want something to drink or just press on? I'm thinking something cold actually.
Yeah.
You feel like slithering in there? You got money?
Iced tea.
Hold it for a moment. You got a goat. Are you good with our fruit? You good with our fruit? I'll take the bag you want. You get the hell out of Dodge or what? Oh, that's good. I'm not sure what it is. If you want to, I can go back and get them. I'll take the bag you want. You get the hell out of Dodge or what? Oh, that's good. I'm not sure what it is.
The teacher. Okay. Yeah. So you don't have to go there. There's nothing. Every day, so you can see around you all the petty vehicles. So why should you go inside? Nothing. See, fantastic. Yeah. Photos. I
We're at the Rice Paddy Museum and actually standing on a platform that rotates around the whole surrounding area here. And it's really realistic. It really feels like it has depth to it. Because all this is painted on a wall. hand painted, Cindy was saying, by some Japanese painters. But when you're standing here, like I said, it really looks authentic, that you're looking out into the landscape of the area. It's a little weird. In the flooded paddy fields. I don't really know if they plant by hand. I would assume they do not do that anymore. The woman was saying that they can pull 3 crops off a year, and the next crop is due in February. She's our Uber driver, and actually we ended up taking her to the museum simply because she was going to wait for us, and rather because it's difficult to get another Uber driver out here. So she's actually the one who took us to the fort and came back and picked us up, and she's taking us out here. So we took her to the museum. She's never been at it before, and then she'll take us back into town and part ways then where we go. But she's pleasant. She's 53 years old. She's been to Vancouver on a vacation. And it is 1:15 now, so we'll probably get back into town by, I don't know, 1:30, say 2 o'clock at the latest, and then after that we'll be on our own to do whatever we want. Tomorrow we hop on the train and we're heading to Ipoh. We're going to rent a car a couple days, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, and do some touring around there, some caves, Cameron Highlands, where tea fields are. And the train is a commuter, which is it's not electric. It's a slower moving train, but about a 3-hour train ride, I believe. And you can see in the far ground that's Alor. So we're actually about 8 kilometers away from Alor. So not that far. This is, I guess, one of 4 museums built around the rice production. I believe one's in Germany, one's in Japan, and the other one's in the Philippines. Hope to learn a little bit how rice is harvested, and it looks like it's combines by the looks of it. You know, the paddies are flooded now. Other than that, I don't know when that stops or anything like that. So
I'm from Malaysia. My new friend Cindy. My new friend.
there you go.
Nice to meet you all. I said great to see you. Actually, my full name is
Oh, yeah.